Hey now, it is a Red Friday. It is a feel-good Friday on 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. He is Dan Lucero, and we are here with you for the next 2-ish hours today to take you into the NFL Divisional Round weekend, a big Big 12 weekend. So much to get to over the course of the next 2 hours here on 580 Sports Talk. Why are we done by 5 o'clock today? That is because the 62nd annual Topeka Invitational Tournament still ongoing, and we've got another day of triple header action coming your way here on the Sports Voice of Kansas. First game of the day set for a 5 o'clock tip-off if everything goes as scheduled. That will be the second consolation round game. Hayden taking on Shawnee Mission North. Man, we had an insane day of basketball yesterday at the TIT, including 2 games that went to overtime. Hayden, unfortunately, heartbreakingly, lost on a buzzer beater at the end of the game by by Wichita Southeast. So Hayden will play Shawnee Mission North at 5 o'clock today. That's our first game. Our first semifinal on the championship side of the bracket, 6:45, Lawrence versus Topeka West. Topeka High pushed Lawrence to the brink yesterday. Topeka West had a big win. And in the nightcap at 8:30, Wichita Southeast will take on undefeated number 1 ranked Highland Park. All those games coming your way here on 580 WIBW throughout the late afternoon and evening. So we are done with 580 Sports Talk at 5 o'clock, leading directly into the high school basketball coming up tonight. But we do have a ton to get to on the show today as well. Obviously, the Chiefs play in just over 24 hours. And that means we've got our Chiefs keys to the game against the Jaguars. What will it take for Kansas City to pick up the win and get back to the AFC Championship game? We'll get to those, plus our big Chief picks and our winner and cover predictions. We'll also play some Change My Mind this hour, and Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com will join us for our Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Chiefs Insider. I'm just so excited about everything that's going on today.
Hard not to be.
Freaking out about it.
It's a great night for high school basketball. It's a great weekend coming up for, obviously, the NFL, for college basketball. We've got so much to get to, so little time to get to it in. I'm excited, too.
We'll get to a preview of the whole NFL Divisional Round weekend. I think this is a really interesting weekend of football. I really do. Even the game that should be the biggest blowout, I think, has a lot of intrigue, and that's our game, Chiefs versus Jags. Plus, we've got What Is Wrong With You? We'll find our weekly winner, and a look ahead to Big 12 hoops this weekend as well. KU plays TCU. That is a big-time game for the Jayhawks, and Kansas State taking on Texas Tech. Can the Cats avoid the emotional letdown after the game against KU? It'll be at home. Maybe that helps. We'll get to all that coming up over the course of the next 2 hours. Would love for you to be a part of the show. You know how to do so on the Big O Tires text line, 785-272-9429. That is our text line number. And, of course, the comment section is open on YouTube as well. Our channel is Sports on 580 WIBW. Want to, again, give a shout-out to everyone who's been watching, joining us for the last not quite 3 months. We've been doing the live streams of the shows. Up another couple of subscribers yesterday. So if you haven't subscribed on YouTube yet, just search Sports on 580 WIBW on YouTube, or just Google it and throw YouTube at the end there. Hit subscribe. It's free. It's easy. And then all of the videos we do will be on your YouTube home page. That, again, Sports on 580 WIBW on YouTube. All right, let's get right into it. The Kansas City Chiefs this weekend, again, just over 24 hours from right now, will take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. I saw this earlier today on Twitter. Since 2017, the AFC Championship game has featured at least one of the Chiefs and Jaguars every year. Chiefs every year since 2018, and oh yeah, the Jaguars got there in 2017 too. They got really dang close to making the Super Bowl that year. They got really close.
Yep.
Bad call against Myles Jack.
Yeah, terrible call.
Yeah, and then classic Tom Brady Patriots nonsense.
Yeah.
Terrible. Anyway, we have an exciting game on tap. Chiefs versus Jaguars. Chiefs are favored pretty heavily, which is understandable, I think. Right now, last I checked at FanDuel, it was 8.5 points. That's gone down a little bit. It had been 9.5 earlier on in the week. My key number one for this game, it's something we talked about plenty on the show yesterday. In our notes, I put GATA, which in Georgia Southern parlance is get after that ass. Get after Trevor Lawrence. Put pressure on him. We talked about it yesterday. I talked about it anyway. He has been pretty good this year about not turning the ball over through the air. In fact, he had 8 interceptions through 17 weeks of the regular season. Now, he did throw 4 against the Chargers. I'm not expecting that's going to happen again. Part of that was just bad luck. Part of that was a really young quarterback in his first NFL playoff game against a really tuned-up defense. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is throwing 4 interceptions again this week, especially in one half. But, as we also talked about, Lawrence has fumbled. Top 4 in the NFL in number of fumbles this year, 12 of them. That's not especially safe with the ball when pressure gets after you in the backfield. So what do the Chiefs have to do? Force him into some bad situations where maybe he will throw another interception like the 4 he threw last week. Maybe he will fumble like he did 2 of every 3 games over the course of the regular season. Get pressure on him. Up the middle, obviously, that is where you can really do some damage. Off the edge as well. Frank Clark, if there's ever a time for Frank Clark to stand up over the course of his career, it's been in the postseason. Sounds like he is 100% good to go. No injury designation for the game. So the groin hopefully will not flare up and bother him at all. This is the time of year where he is at his best. Chris Jones, you said it earlier in the week. What a great time to get your first career playoff sack, which is still unbelievable. They've been in the playoffs so many times over the years. He still doesn't have a sack. This is the perfect time to get there, especially if Brandon Sheriff, even if he goes, isn't 100%, because he's one of the best linemen that Jacksonville has. If the Chiefs want to win this game and put Jacksonville away, get after the quarterback. He's big, he's physical, he's got a big arm, yes. Every quarterback in the league is worse when they are under pressure. They might still be great, but they are worse when they are under pressure, so create as much of it as you can against Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence is making his first road playoff start, and I think that's a big deal. I think that it's one thing he's got a playoff win under his belt, and we all know Trevor Lawrence knows a thing or two about playing in high-stakes playoff games because he played a bunch of them at Clemson. You know, a lot of those games were neutral site games. They weren't road games. He's not going on the road to play a game as significant as this one. So I think the environment very much matters. And I think that should give the Chiefs a little extra bit of juice. We know that Trevor Lawrence may have given the Arrowhead denizens some juice with his comments earlier this week about not expecting Arrowhead to be any louder than, what is the name of Jacksonville Stadium? It's not Alltel Stadium anymore. What?
TIAA Bank.
TIAA Bank. Ah, yes, that famous stadium name that we all know. TIAA Bank Stadium. I don't think that place has ever been louder than Arrowhead Stadium has been for a playoff game. So I do think that the atmosphere, the environment in the stadium, and a rested Chiefs defense, rested Chiefs pass rush add up to the ingredients necessary to do exactly that, to get pressure on Trevor Lawrence, to force him off of his first read, to force him to throw shorter routes, check down routes. And that's what the Chiefs did really for the most part in the first meeting. A lot of Lawrence's completions in that game until the game got to garbage time were of the short variety. And if the Chiefs can do that and keep the Jaguar offense in front of them for the better part of the afternoon, they're going to make it really hard for the Jaguars to put together drives to win. My first key to the game tomorrow afternoon, you got to stay on your toes, because if we know anything about Doug Peterson, from onside kicks to Philly specials, Doug Peterson's teams are going to let them hang in a big game. You know what them is. You know what I'm referring to.
Cojones.
Yes, sure. Whatever other slang term you'd like to refer to them as, you know they are going to hang from Doug Peterson and his coaching staff. So if you're the Chiefs, you can't get caught off guard. And I think that having played the Jaguars and having been caught napping on a surprise onside kick to start that game, this will be a Chiefs team that will be prepared for all kinds of shenanigans, trick plays, misdirections, risks, gambles. I expect that Jacksonville will be aggressive. We talked about this earlier in the week. Aggressive on fourth down, even maybe sometimes not across the 50. If it's fourth and short, maybe they leave the offense out there on the field, try to sneak it with a big quarterback in Trevor Lawrence on a 4th and 1 in minus territory. You have to be on your toes and expect to get the whole kitchen sink thrown at you by the underdog.
I think Doug Peterson is an awesome coach. I think I've kind of alluded to this already over the last few days. I love Doug Peterson.
I think there's a credible argument to be made that he's the best in-game coach left in the playoffs.
That is absolutely a credible argument. I mean, look at who the competition is. Andy Reid, at most things, is truly a genius when it comes to football coaching. Sometimes in-game decision-making, not his strong suit. Around the rest of the AFC, you've also got Sean McDermott, really good coach. I don't think he's ever been lauded as like the ultimate adjuster in game. Zach Taylor certainly is not. That's an easy one.
Yeah, but who?
Mike McCarthy,
right? Like who do
Kyle
you
Shanahan?
Who do you trust with the big decisions in the big games? I mean, how many coaches are left that have a ring? Like it's Reed and Peterson, and that's it. That's the list.
Mike McCarthy.
Oh yeah, McCarthy's got his. Forgot about that.
That was with Aaron Rodgers, not Dak Prescott, though.
Different sport.
Yeah, no kidding. So, no, my point, though, is I just think he is a tremendous coach. He would do that anyway. Like, he's always gone for fourth downs plenty. Did it when he was with the Eagles. Did it even this season when the Jags weren't looking all that hot. He loves the trick plays. You know, the most famous one in NFL history at this point. This kind of game, the entire bag is getting emptied out. If they somehow won, they probably wouldn't have anything left for Buffalo or Cincinnati, whoever they would end up playing the week after. And that honestly is the way it should be when you are the underdog facing an uphill climb on the road. But that actually transitions a lot into my next point, my next key to the game. Blow this game open early because you're going to see maybe another surprise onside at a different time of game. Although I would imagine Dave Tope's group will be ready for that. You're going to see end arounds. You're going to see a wider Zay Jones is going to throw a ball in this game, maybe to Trevor Lawrence. You're going to see all sorts of different stuff in this game from Jacksonville, trying to empty the clip, doing anything they can to knock off the Chiefs. Those kind of plays can swing games. They can swing momentum. You know how to avoid them swinging momentum? Fake punts also. I would expect a fake punt at some time in this game. You lead 17-0. You're up 24-10, 24-7, something like that. Then, oh man, they ran a flea flicker and ended up in a 50-yard touchdown bomb. Okay, it's still a 2-score game. Get after it early, blow it open early. You can then, eliminate the effectiveness of some of those trick plays. They're still momentum plays. They still might extend a drive, put points on the board, whatever, but it's not that complete sliding doors kind of moment in a game. You can also make Jacksonville more one-dimensional, which, granted, that dimension's pretty good. Trevor Lawrence, great arm. Looks like he's going to be one of the next great quarterbacks if he continues on this trajectory. Their receivers, I think, have played above board quite a bit. Their receivers, by the way, I'm sorry to interrupt myself, very stream of consciousness. Their receivers kind of remind me of the KU receivers. Like, going into the year, that was probably seen as one of the big weaknesses, but they've actually been really good. Like, Zay Jones had a really solid year. Christian Kirk was awesome.
Yeah, he had a great year.
That's kind of my allegory for that.
They're not like, it's not Chase, Higgins, and Boyd by any stretch of the imagination, but Christian Kirk played up to the contract he received, and Zay Jones has come on. It took him, I think he's on his third team.
I believe that's correct.
I think
Bills, Raiders, Jags.
Yeah. So it's taken him a while, but he's kind of started to come into his own as a player. And Marvin Jones is a veteran, reliable guy.
Ingram has had a good year.
Yeah, Evan Ingram's had a great year at tight end, particularly strong in the second half. So, yeah, like they've got, I mean, nobody probably keep you up at night, but
enough guys who can make plays.
Sure.
And so, again, that one dimension, if Jacksonville's forced to do that, is their better dimension. But still, like you pointed out the other day, you want to get ETN involved. ETN's a good player. You want him to be able to run the ball. You want to get him the ball in space because he is dynamic. He can make things happen. If you can take him out of the game, that makes things even tougher on a young quarterback who, as we've already brought up, is in his first road playoff game, and it's going to be against an extremely hostile crowd. Some of those college football playoff games, those are big crowds. Those were big moments. They were not as loud and rowdy as this crowd's going to be tomorrow afternoon. No. Not even close.
We've got concurrence with you on one of your points on the Big O Tires text line from the 75. Take ETN out of the game.
Yep.
Like that's one factor. You try and make this team as one-dimensional as you possibly can, and you make them play from behind, which the Chiefs did in the first meeting between these two teams this year. But that dovetails with my second key of the game. Stay aggressive in the second half. If I may quote our friend Mitch Holtis, put the hammer down. The Chiefs didn't really do that in the first meeting. They were up 20-0, and then they gave up a long kick return and a touchdown with less than a minute left in the first half, and then fumbled away an opportunity for Jacksonville to score more. Patterson missed a field goal at the very end of the first half after Jody Fortson fumbled the squib kick return. So it very well could have been 20-10 going into the half of a game that the Chiefs had completely and utterly dominated. Then in the second half, Chiefs only scored 7 points. Mahomes threw a pick, and Jacksonville got it to within 10, despite the fact that the Chiefs, again, dominated that football game. Like, you look it up, everything but the turnovers, total dominance by the Chiefs. Jacksonville had 4 extra possessions in that game off of 3 Chiefs turnovers and the onside kick, and still only managed 17 points, and 7 of them came in garbage time. The Chiefs scored 27 points in that game despite turning the ball over 3 times, one of those being inside the Jacksonville 10. Like, it was so one-sided, the play on the field, but because the Chiefs only scored 7 points in the second half, left the door ajar for longer than anybody would have liked. And the Chiefs had to convert. Don't forget this now. It was 27-17. The Chiefs had a 3rd and 7 they had to convert on the last drive of the game, the long pass to Valdez-Scantling that he caught along the sideline. And they converted on a 4th and 2, I think it was. They left the offense on the field 4th and 2, I think right at midfield, and Mahomes threw to Kelsey for a first down, and Jacksonville never got the ball back again. So I say all that to say this. It was a very one-sided game on paper between these two last time, but Jacksonville hung tough. And I expect that they've got the mental toughness and the belief to do something like that again. So if you're the Chiefs, you've got to be crisp in the second half. You have to maintain offensive momentum and finish them off in the second half. I got to believe that's top of mind for the Chiefs, not just given how the first meeting between these two ended, but also the last half of playoff football they played, a second half to forget in last year's AFC Championship game. I expect 60 crisp minutes from the Kansas City Chiefs on Saturday.
I would expect the same thing, and I don't want to read too much into standard elevations from the practice squad in a divisional round playoff game. Chiefs are elevating Austin Reiter and Marcus Kemp. That second one is especially noteworthy, in my opinion. Last time, caught sleeping on special teams, the onside kick at the beginning of the game. Chiefs are going to do everything they can to make sure they button up the special teams effort. They bring in their best special teamer or one of their best off the practice squad for this game. That, to me, it could just be as simple as, hey, we're going to bring two extra guys up. But it also feels like, with it being Kemp specifically, hey, we got to pay extra attention to special teams in this game. So that is also interesting to note. Austin Reiter, playoff experience, get some backups in there. So be it. All right. Anyway, with that, let's get to our big Chief picks for the week. I'm going to go with someone we haven't talked about all week. I don't think his name has been uttered a single time on the program this week. I'm going with Isaiah Pacheco. He had 82 yards on the ground on 16 carries the first time these two teams played. 5 yards a carry.
It was his first really good game. And even in that game, he was the one who fumbled inside the Jacksonville 10-yard line. But he was a big part of helping them finish the game off in the second half.
And I think, to that point specifically, he doesn't have to touch the ball a bunch in the first half. You're putting up points, you're airing it out, you're going crazy. Juju's got 7 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown. Kelsey's doing his thing. You get MVS involved in a couple deep shots. Jerick McKinnon will almost certainly catch a touchdown pass at some point in the game. You don't need a lot of Isaiah Pacheco. Fourth quarter, you're up by 10. You've got the ball, 9 minutes on the clock at your own 25. You know what I want to do? Give the ball to the dude who runs harder than anyone else on the team. He is physical, he is nasty, and with those interior linemen that I was hyping up the other day about how important they're going to be against that NASCAR package for the Jacksonville front, you run behind Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, more often than not, you're going to find plenty of success on the ground. I think Pacheco might not put up great stats in this game, but he should be the hammer, if you will, at the end of the game. Put it away, burn clock. I know Andy Reid's never going to go to full just burn out the clock mode because he just can't help himself unless it's a total blowout. But this still feels like the kind of game where he can really put a lot of pressure on Jacksonville, especially if it's a multi-score game late.
So my big Chief is Travis Kelce. Do you know who, according to Football Outsiders DVOA metric, was the worst team in the NFL defending tight ends this year?
I'm going to guess the Jacksonville Jaguars.
You are correct. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars. They were the worst team in the NFL against tight ends.
Yikes.
Chiefs have a pretty good one who seems to play his best when the moments matter the most. Travis Kelce's going to have a monster game. He's going to visit the end zone at least once. I got Travis Kelce as my big Chief.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair pick. He had a pretty solid game last time these two teams faced off as well. In fact, as tight ends go, he probably had a little bit of a down game against Jacksonville, not going over 100 yards when these two teams played against one another. I'm going to go with the Chiefs to win, and I'm going to go with the Chiefs to cover that 9-point spread. I'm keeping it close as a sort of hedge because the Chiefs were actually really bad against the spread in the regular season. 5-12, I believe, was the final mark.
Yeah.
I'm going to say they cover, but I'm going to make it close. 28-19. That's a Chiefs win. That's Chiefs covering the spread. That's also the under, which I don't love, to be honest with you. But I think if that Chiefs front plays well enough, they're going to limit Jacksonville scoring.
I believe overs were 5-1 in the wild card round.
Yeah, that tracks.
I've got an over for this game, and I've got the Chiefs winning. I think the Jags will cover. This has backdoor cover written all over it. I'm going going 31-24 Kansas City, but I think the Chiefs will score early and score often. I mean, it's Andy Reid off a bye. You almost feel like 30 points is the bare minimum for the Chiefs in a situation like that. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars have a ton of fight in them. They look like a team for the future. They're going to play hard for all 60 minutes. I don't think they're going to wilt, and I think they've got a backdoor cover in them. So that's why I'm going 31-24 Chiefs and the Jags to cover what is currently an 8.5-point spread. But I was thinking about this the other day. So Mahomes, as we know, is 4-0 in the divisional round. 2018, it was a game I couldn't remember because I was thinking about it off the top of my head, like what were the other divisional round games? Well, 2019 was obviously that bonkers comeback against Houston, and 2020 was the Cleveland game where Mahomes got knocked out and Chad Henne, anything is possible, that game. And then last year, obviously, was Buffalo in the divisional round, pretty memorable as well. But I couldn't remember the 2018 game. I couldn't remember what that divisional round game was. And so I had to go back and I had to look it up.
Mm-hmm.
That was Indianapolis. That was an AFC South team that had gained a lot of momentum in the second half of the season because they were playing a bummy division and didn't play anybody good.
Yep.
And they won their first round playoff game and they went to Arrowhead and there was a lot of noise about, hey, don't count out the Colts. And the Chiefs sandblasted them to hell. 31-13 was the final score of that game. So I think we could see something similar. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
But I will hedge a little bit and say Jacksonville backdoor cover. But yes, I think the Chiefs advance to their fifth straight AFC Championship game.
That's fair. And again, the Chiefs are really bad against the spread this year.
Yes, they were 5-12 against the spread. And if that's something you're intimately familiar with, you probably already know that with FanDuel, every play is a rush. But if you're a new customer, you can join FanDuel today so you can bet the divisional round with $150 in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just got to sign up with my promo code Lucero. $150 in free bets. You could bet that Chiefs point spread. You could bet Chiefs money line and still come out with a decent chunk of change. I mean, you'd have to bet a big number to win a big number considering the Chiefs are minus 500 on the money line. But $100 or 50 bets, that's pretty sweet. America's #1 sportsbook has all your favorite bets from the money line to point spreads to player props. Plus, with FanDuel, you can even combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So football fans, don't miss out. Place your first $5 bet to get $150 in free bets, win or lose, with promo code Lucero. And make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. You must be 21 and present in Kansas. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable free bets. It expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. Gambling problem? Getting help is your best bet. Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit ksgamblinghelp.com.
We would love to hear your predictions for tomorrow's Chiefs-Jags tilt. Let us know on the Big O Tires text line, your score prediction. That's 785-272-9429 to reach us on the text line. And, of course, you can comment on YouTube as well. Sports on 580 WIBW is the YouTube channel. We'll take a break. Matt Derrick will join us later on this hour, and we'll play Change My Mind coming up next on 580 Sports Talk. Back on 580 Sports Talk on this Feel Good Friday afternoon. Brendan Dorzinski, Dan Lucero here with you. Short show today. We're off around 5 o'clock for triple header action from day number 2 of the 62nd Annual Topeka Invitational Tournament. And before we get to Matt Derrick later on this hour for our Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Chiefs Insider, a quick round of Change My Mind. Dan, change my mind. Anything below a top 4 seed for Kansas State basketball makes this season a disappointment.
I disagree with that vehemently because the expectations were to not even make the tournament. I think you'd be maybe disappointed about the finish to the season if K-State ended up a 5, 6, or 7 seed. That would take something that I'm not sure is capable of happening, barring, like a worst case scenario sort of finish to the season. But I don't think you can look at a group in their first year under new head coach, almost entirely new team, and pick to finish dead last in the conference. Just making the tournament makes this season a success, I think, at this stage. It would be a bummer if they didn't finish the year. Like right now, they're right on that 4 line for Joe Lenardi.
Mm-hmm.
It would be a bummer if from here they didn't get as high a seed as it maybe feels like is possible right now. But I don't think you could consider it a disappointment, no.
I think from this point, like if you are resetting everything from this point of the year, I would feel, if I was a K-State fan, excited but also disappointed to not, because it means at that point you did not continue this huge wave of momentum. You crested a little bit too early, to continue the water analogy. If you're still talking about general scope of the year, then no. I mean, this is all, being on the bubble was my goal for the year, right? Like this is already an overwhelming success because they're in. They are in.
Yes, they're going to make the tournament, and they've already beaten KU. Like
successful year.
Everything after this is gravy.
So to me, it's just about when are you starting those expectations? Is it from post KU or start of the season? Because I think it changes a little bit depending on where you start your perspective from.
So here's my change my mind today, and it's a thought I had following Monday night's Super Wildcard Weekend game between Jacksonville and Tampa Bay. Change my mind. Dak Prescott is underrated.
He's underrated. He's probably a little bit underrated. He puts up big numbers. The Cowboys win a lot of games. He has had some games in his career where you say, oh my, like he really is that dude. He is him. Like he's got those moments. But again, I'm still sort of waiting for the moment, like that one turning point moment where you can say, you can't touch this guy. Like pretty much every other great quarterback, really, really good quarterback, you've had that moment. Mahomes has had them.
Mm-hmm. Allen
has had them. Burrow, Rodgers. I mean, all these guys forever. You've had that one moment.
And Dak doesn't have that.
He doesn't have it. Like he's got stats. I think he's better than Kirk Cousins. I think those two get lumped together a little bit. Cousins has never won anything.
Yeah, my argument that he's underrated is that people still think he stinks. Like you will hear
that.
And part of that is just generally how people feel about the Dallas Cowboys. But you will hear people lump Dak Prescott in with a class of quarterbacks he does not belong with way more often than you should.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
He's a cut above that Cousins Carr tier pretty comfortably.
Yeah, I would put him in tier 2 now, which tier 1 is Mahomes, Allen, Burrow. I guess depending on how you feel about Justin Herbert, he might be there.
He's not tier 1 for me.
I think it's those 3. I think that next group, I think Rodgers has slid into that next group, and some people would argue lower, which I think is a fair argument. Herbert's in that group. You can probably throw Brady in there, probably, even though his team sucks. I think Prescott is much closer to them than he is closer to Derek Carr.
Yeah.
Raiders are a much better team if Prescott is there this past year than Carr is. I don't know if they're a playoff team, but they're much better than they were. No doubt about that. We've got to take a break on 580 Sports Talk. Matt Derrick joins us next here on 580 WIBW.
We look forward to the challenge. We look forward to, to that challenge.
Mr. Official, let me ask you something. How can 6 of you miss a play like that?
His name is Matt.
Are you ready?
My name is Matt.
Let's go.
Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com is our Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Chiefs Insider, and he joins us every Friday at this time here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt, how fired up do you think this Arrowhead Stadium crowd is going to be after Trevor Lawrence said he doesn't think it'll get any louder than TIAA Bank Stadium in Jacksonville?
Yeah, not sure that was the smartest move. I mean, there's no really reason to step on the toes or step on the cape of the 14-3 Chiefs and everything. But yeah, I think the crowd's going to be a little fired up now, and the players seem to, at least a couple of them, have figured it out. So yeah, I don't know if that was the wisest course of action, but it's a bold move. Let's see if it pays off.
The Chiefs and the Jaguars tomorrow afternoon, the first of the 4 divisional round playoff games to take place, will kick off at Arrowhead Stadium. By the by, if you're looking to listen to it, you'll be able to hear it on our sister station, the Big 94.5 Country, with pregame coverage starting at 2 o'clock and the kickoff at 3:30. Again, 94.5, the Big 94.5 Country will have Chiefs football on Saturday. Matt, these two teams met in the regular season. How much do you think you can take away from that regular season meeting, or do you think both teams have changed sufficiently that that game might be a bit of a throwaway?
Yeah, I mean, both teams have changed, but I think there's still some truth from that game that you can still take. And, one of them is that, Jacksonville's pass protection in the middle isn't as strong as it is on the outside. That there's an opportunity there. And you saw the Chiefs take advantage of that the last time, and you're also dealing with a second-year quarterback who, based on what his rookie year was like under Urban Meyer, maybe he's still a rookie quarterback. He's still a young guy. As good as Trevor Lawrence is and as high as the potential is, he's still a young guy who, is prone to the same kind of pressures that young quarterbacks are. And I think you saw that in the first time around, that the Chiefs were able to get pressure up the middle. They were able to confuse him with a lot of Steve Spagnuolo blitzes, which are pretty complicated and complex and from different directions. And that worked. I mean, they picked up 5 sacks, despite the fact that the Chiefs turned the football over 3 times. They were still able to hold Jacksonville to 17 points. I mean, I think it's a good matchup for the Chiefs on paper and on the field. The X factor is just, to me, it's going to be Doug Peterson, and it's going to be just the ceiling for Trevor Lawrence. I think Jacksonville's dangerous. I mean, they can come in here and they can cause some problems, but I think what we learned from the last game is that the Chiefs can beat the Jaguars without their A game. I'm not even sure that was their B game. It might have been their C game that they beat the Jaguars with in November. And you can change all you want, but the Chiefs changed too, and I think they're playing better than they were in November.
In what ways are the Jaguars most equipped to cause the Chiefs problems?
I mean, defensively, I think that, they're better against the run. And now the Chiefs don't typically, run the football a lot in the postseason. But if the Chiefs are wanting to try and establish the run early, that might be the Jacksonville's advantage. Offensively, I mean, I think there's a lot to favor the Chiefs. Now, they've got the Jaguars have some problems. I mean, they've got a decent pass rush. They've got some guys at the second level that can play and tackle. So there's, I think, reason to be at least a little bit concerned. I think the bigger threat that Jacksonville poses is just the X factor. Even though I think that Kansas City's defense matches up pretty well, this Jacksonville offense, I mean, it's risk taker. Doug Peterson is going to take a lot of gambles. And when teams are aggressive and take gambles, you never know what's going to happen. And even though I think that the Chiefs' pass rush and their blitz packages are tough for Jacksonville, that young secondary for the Chiefs is what Doug Peterson's going to test. He's going to have Trevor looking for, who is the youngest and who's the least experienced cornerback out there on any particular snap, and try and create mismatches there. They've got different receivers that they can rotate to different spots. And if they find a matchup that's working for them, or they can find a way to get a wide receiver, or, if they can get Ingram on one of the linebackers, that's a matchup that Jacksonville can exploit, and I think they'll try to.
Our guest is Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com. He is the Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Chiefs Insider here on 580 Sports Talk. Joins us every Friday at this time, and you can follow along with Matt on Twitter at Matt Derrick. Who other than Chris Jones? Because we were talking about this yesterday on the show and trying to pin down X factors for the Chiefs in this game. And obviously you land on Chris Jones because he is so impactful all the time and was so impactful in the first meeting again between the Chiefs and the Jaguars. Which other Chiefs defensive player do you think has a chance to make a significant impact, both positively for the Chiefs or potentially negatively if they don't have a good game against this Jaguars offense?
Yeah, I mean, on the defensive side, I think after Chris Jones, I think that the second most important player, both positively and negatively for the Chiefs is Nick Bolton. Nick has played very well this season. You've seen that. Does he have his deficiencies? Sure. I mean, he's not the best in pass coverage, and that's been pretty consistent with the Chiefs linebackers across the board. It's not their best suit. They're all, I think, much better playing a little bit more downhill and from side to side. It's when the action gets behind them and it gets in the air that's a little bit more of a challenge. If Nick Bolton is focused and he's playing at his best, he elevates this defense across the board. I mean, I think it makes everybody better. If this is a game in which Jacksonville can find some ways to put Nick Bolton in some of the positions where he's less comfortable, especially in pass coverage, if they're going to throw the ball a lot and they're going to target the middle of the field, that might be a weak spot for Jacksonville to exploit and see what's there. But again, I mean, if Nick Bolton's playing well, if the Chiefs safeties are playing well to back him up, that can be negated. So I mean, there's ways that you obviously can scheme around that. But to me, yeah, Nick Bolton's a big one. I mean, if Nick Bolton has 15 tackles, I think the Chiefs are probably going to win this game. I mean, if this ends up something that that Jacksonville ends up getting a lot of yards in the middle of the field, they can create some problems.
Offensively for the Chiefs, they scored 27 points against the Jaguars in the first meeting, had close to 500 total yards, and that was despite a special teams turnover, a lost possession on an onside kick that was recovered by the Jaguars, a fumble inside the 10, and a Mahomes interception late in the game. They still put up some pretty colossal total yardage numbers. What can you learn from the first meeting, and what can you maybe take away from what the Chargers did successfully against them in the first half last week and point to and say this is where the Chiefs can derive an advantage against the Jacksonville defense?
Yeah, against the Jacksonville defense, I mean, I think the Chiefs had it right the last time. I mean, they threw the ball effectively. You're right. They had almost 500 yards of offense. That was the best day that any offense has had against the Chargers all season. That to me, I mean, it shows you exactly the Chiefs do what they did last time in November. I think it'll be pretty effective. The question for me, is how improved is Jacksonville's pass defense? Because they played really well down the stretch. They even, played decently against the Chargers. I mean, in that first half, remember, it was mostly turnovers that were really the problem for Jacksonville and created a lot of short fields for the Chargers. It wasn't the Chargers' offense that necessarily was lighting the world on fire. They just had great opportunities, took advantage of them. To me, it's just how much of that was performance by Jacksonville in maybe the last 5 or 6 games of the season was driven by true improvement, or did it just come from, getting good matchups against some backup quarterbacks or some struggling offenses and capitalizing on that? Even if it was that second part of it, even if it was just some good matchups and that bad quarterback play that they faced, that can still give you momentum. I mean, it can still give you confidence. And if Jacksonville plays with that, then that can be a problem. But I mean, to me, Jacksonville, if their defense is going to give the Chiefs a problem, it's because I think the Chiefs are being sloppy. They're not executing well. They're making mistakes, and they're turning over the football.
Which offensive player for the Chiefs would you anticipate having a big game? Because there's evidence to point to Kadarius Toney, the first meeting of the year between these two teams. There's evidence to point that Isaiah Pacheco could have a big game because he had his kind of breakout game against them. Jacksonville's been the worst team in the league defending tight ends. It could be Travis Kelce. Who's your kind of pick to click on the offensive side for the Chiefs?
Yeah, I was semi-joking with someone earlier today with talking about how the Chiefs come out. We were talking about the fact that Patrick Mahomes seems to always in playoff games come out a little bit hyped up. And you can tell, in that first drive, if he's in that mode, because, if the Chiefs, if they come out and have a 3-and-out the first drive and Mahomes is high with his first couple of throws, maybe that's going to be a little indicative and maybe it'll take him some time to settle down. I was half joking by saying, hey, knowing that's Mahomes, I might just put Toney on the field and say, hey, Kadarius, run as fast as you can, and Patrick's going to as far as he can. That might be what I try and do. But to me, hey, this offense goes through Travis Kelce, and it hasn't been of late. I mean, he's been getting his ball, getting his yards, but hasn't been in the end zone. And I wonder just how many of those have maybe gone to the Jerick McKinnon, and maybe he's kind of stolen Kelce's touchdowns a little bit in the last half of the season, since Kelce hasn't been as prolific. I think that will change in the postseason. I think you're going to see, especially in the red zone, Kelce's going to be the first option. So Chiefs get a lot of scoring opportunities in the red zone. I think that's where you're going to see Kelce shine.
Our guest is Matt Derrick. He is our Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Chiefs insider. You can find Matt's work at ChiefsDigest.com. You can find him on Twitter at Matt Derrick. You can hear him on 580 Sports Talk every Friday at this time. A couple more questions for Matt as we continue to preview Saturday's divisional round playoff game between the Chiefs and the Jaguars. Give me one potential red flag, something that if you see it early in this game, you might get a little unsettled feeling about this matchup for the Chiefs. What would be the one thing that Jacksonville could do early or execute early that might provide a red flag?
I mean, for me, it's turnovers. I mean, that's been the bugaboo for the Chiefs offense. They really haven't been slowed down. It's hard to say that there's any real problem. You got the number one scoring offense in the league and one of the most efficient offenses in the league. But we know it. I mean, that's when they have had problems. It's when they've been giving the football away. If they don't do that, I don't think that there is any team in the league that can stop this team. If the Chiefs end up in positive category for turnovers in the postseason, they're probably going to be a Super Bowl champion. That is the only thing I think that can slow them down. So, I mean, to me, that's the biggest thing. If Mahomes and the offense has any turnovers in the first half, I'm expecting it's going to be a close contest unless the Chiefs defense responds accordingly.
All right, Matt, it is an 8.5-point spread with a 52.5-point total, according to our friends at FanDuel for Saturday's game. The Chiefs, notoriously not real good against the spread, 5-12 against the spread during the regular season. Is this a Chiefs win? Is this a Chiefs cover? What shape do you think this game takes?
Yeah, I mean, I have my worries that the Chiefs might do their thing where they come out a little flat in their first playoff game. Because like I said, I think they're sometimes prone to the emotions of the game and getting a little bit too hyped, and it can sometimes take them a little bit to settle in. But I think on the flip side, how hyped they usually get to the postseason games is why they win a lot of them. As scared as I am about Jacksonville, I thought this was going to be the toughest matchup they could have faced in the divisional round. And I worry just that Jacksonville's going to go out there and roll all the dice. I'm just not sure that they can get as many, things to go their way as they did in the second half last week against the Chargers. And I think the Chiefs are a better team. So I would not bet this one. I think the Chiefs will win. I've got them winning 31-17. But like I said, I'm not putting the house on that one, but I feel pretty comfortable that they'll win.
You and I are in the same boat. I said 31-24. I think the Jags get a late backdoor cover touchdown, but you and I are just about in the same boat as to how this one might unfold. All right, Matt, so you're predicting a Chiefs victory on Saturday, which would mean that they would advance to the AFC Championship game. Where will that game be? Will it be in Kansas City against the Bengals, or will it be in Atlanta against the Bills? What do you think about the other AFC game?
Yeah, that is such a tough one because I thought both those teams played pretty rough last week. I mean, I didn't think they should have been in any one of those contests. Those should have been, I thought, double-digit victories for both Cincinnati and Buffalo. So I'm not sure that they're both playing great football right now. The Bengals' problem is they've got so many injuries on that offensive line that are banged up, and that might be the deciding factor. But I tell you what, it's hard to go against Joe Burrow in the playoffs right now. And maybe, and Dan, I'll admit, it might be just a little bit of emotion playing into this because I don't want to go to Atlanta. So I'm taking Cincinnati. So
prediction of Cincinnati, and then real quick, got about 30 seconds here. Who do you think wins the NFC games this weekend?
That one, I'm going to go with chalk on that one. I think it'll be the Eagles and the 49ers.
Matt Derrick covers the Kansas City Chiefs for ChiefsDigest.com. Great insight there always, and on Matt's Twitter account at Matt Derrick. And we appreciate him joining us as our Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Chiefs insider here on 580 Sports Talk every Friday at this time. Matt, enjoy the ball game tomorrow.
You too, Dan. Take care, everybody.
That is Matt Derrick, and that's going to be a wrap on this 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. Coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, got some NFL Wild Card Weekend picks and prop bets for you as we'll take a look at what is coming up in the other 3 divisional round games, in addition to Jaguars and Chiefs, to lead things off on Saturday. Plus, we will crown a weekly champion on What Is Wrong With You. We'll look ahead to the Big 12 basketball weekend schedule as well, as both Kansas and Kansas State are at home tomorrow afternoon. And then we'll wrap it up early to send you out to coverage of the Topeka Invitational Tournament boys basketball action at the Charger Dome. Brendan is there getting set up as we speak. So we'll wrap things up at about 5 o'clock this afternoon as well. So hang with us for one more hour this week of 580 Sports Talk on WIBW. Let's get it. Final hour of the day, final hour of the week on 580 Sports Talk. Yes, it's final hour, even though it's the 4 o'clock hour, because we've got high school hoops coming your way. The 580 Preps High School Game of the Week. Games of the Week. We got a triple header tonight on day 2 of the Topeka Invitational Tournament, the TIT at Topeka West High School. It'll be our first game, Hayden against Shawnee Mission North. That's a consolation bracket semifinal. Then we'll have both of the winners bracket semifinals for you tonight. Topeka West will battle Lawrence in the featured game window, the 6:45 window. And then the nightcap will feature Highland Park and Wichita Southeast. Really cool matchup there. So should be 2 really good games in the winners bracket. And I think Hayden and Shawnee Mission North should have some juice as well. We're looking forward to bringing those all to you tonight here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. Brendan Dworzinski on the call, Larry Latimer and myself alternating color commentary. And so that's what we've got coming up, and we will throw it to the Charger Dome just before we hit the top of the 5 o'clock hour. So this is the final hour of the program and the final hour of the week here on 580 Sports Talk. Glad you're along for the ride, whether you're listening on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, or if you're watching the YouTube stream, hi YouTube stream. My eyes do the funny thing where instead of looking at the camera, I look at the video, the reflection of myself, not on the camera, next to the camera. And so it makes my eyes look weird when I make sure that my wave is captured on the camera. But for all of you watching on YouTube, youtube.com/@sportson580. If you go to YouTube and search for Sports on 580 WIBW, you can subscribe to our YouTube page. A lot of you are taking advantage of that. That is very, very cool of you. It does not cost you a cent. All it costs you is a click to subscribe and to know when we are live on the air, either with our shows, which I would think if you're there, you probably already know when our shows are on the air, but when also we do live content from instant reactions and things of that nature from Washburn games, KU games, K-State games, instant reaction after Chiefs games. We'll have one Saturday afternoon after the Chiefs are done. Brendan, I'm sure, will have one from Allen Fieldhouse after KU TCU on Saturday because he'll be there for that. So lots of great video content. We appreciate you checking it out at our YouTube page. Again, search Sports on 580 WIBW. Your voices are invited and encouraged here in this final hour. You can comment in the YouTube live chat, and you can also send us texts on the Big O Tires text line, 785-272-9429. We're going to crown a weekly What Is Wrong With You champion here in about 20 minutes or so. We'll see if anybody can take down the woman who was trying to dine and dash at the Atlanta Airport Buffalo Wild Wings and got busted. So she reacted in a way that any of us would if we got busted for dining and dashing. Grab a fire extinguisher and just start letting it off in everybody's face. Clearing out a whole gate and then some. Getting into the terminal. Just spraying away with a fire extinguisher because she was upset that someone accused her of dining and dashing. So that's our current winner. We were anticipating that there might be more substantial news updates about this particular story and this particular woman, and those haven't really arrived yet, which makes her a very vulnerable weekly champ. I think we've got 2 really good stories coming up, and Brendan will join us from the Charger Dome when he's all set up there for his story. I'll have mine, and we'll crown a daily and then a weekly What Is Wrong With You champion for this week in January. And we'll also look ahead to the Big 12 basketball weekend. TCU at Kansas, Texas Tech at Kansas State. So 2 home games for the Sunflower State schools in the Big 12 as they try to stay atop the conference. The other conference leader right now in a 3-way tie with the Cats and the Hawks, Iowa State, is on the road, and they play Oklahoma State on Saturday. So we'll look at those games and preview some Big 12 basketball. We'll read your texts, your YouTube live chat comments. If you've got a game prediction, a Big Chief prediction for the Chiefs and the Jaguars on Saturday, would love to hear it. If you've got any other predictions for this Saturday's game, would love to hear those from you as well. A reminder that on Saturday, if you are wanting to listen to Mitch Holtis and Company broadcast, the radio broadcast of the Chiefs and the Jaguars, you will need to dial over to our sister station, the Big 94.5 Country, 94.5 on your FM dial. We'll have Chiefs coverage on Saturday, starting with the pregame at 2 o'clock and kickoff at 3:30. That is so that we may bring you Kansas State men's and women's basketball throughout the day here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. So we've talked plenty about the Jags and the Chiefs. Brendan and I have already given you our keys to the game, our big chief, our final score predictions. If you missed those in hour number 1, you can check out the hour in podcast form at our website, 580WIBW.com, or you can rewatch the video archive when we're done, or you can click the video right now and just scroll the timer back all the way to the beginning and start the show from scratch. You're always welcome to do that if you'd like. But Brendan and I both think the Chiefs are going to win. Brendan has them winning 28-19, and I have a 31-24 Chiefs victory with a late Jags touchdown. I feel the need to add that caveat. I do not believe it's going to be nip and tuck particularly. I think Jacksonville can hang for about a half. I think they're a mentally tough team. They've got a lot of confidence right now. And I do think that they'll play a full 60 minutes and score late to make the final score appear maybe a little bit more respectable. But sometimes it's best not to overthink things. The best player on the field for either team wears a Chiefs uniform and the number 15 on it. And the second best player in this game, and second most likely player to make a big impact, is also a Kansas City Chief. His jersey number is 95. And the third best player in this game is also a Kansas City Chief, and he wears jersey number 87. Chiefs have more talent. There's a reason that they went 14-3 and Jacksonville went 9-8. There's a reason the Chiefs cruised in a division that spent $1 billion trying to figure out how to beat them. And the Jaguars needed a scoop and score touchdown in the final 2 minutes to beat Josh Dobbs in a winner-take-all division championship game in the final week. Anything can happen in the National Football League. We all know this. I'm not sitting here and discounting that the Jaguars have any chance to win. I have seen in my lifetime a Jacksonville Jaguars team go on the road against a Hall of Fame quarterback, against a team that felt like the best team in the AFC, and beat them in the divisional round. I have seen that happen before. 1996, Mile High Stadium. Beat John Elway and the Broncos. Stunned John Elway and the Broncos. But that was a really good Jacksonville team. If you can recall, they got really good really fast. Both them and Carolina, in fact, as expansion teams, who were both in conference championship games their second year of existence. That's kind of wild. Especially when you think about what the Browns have been since their expansion year, and the Texans having all of one playoff win in their whole existence since being an expansion team. Neither here nor there. I just say all that to say this. I'm not discounting the Jaguars. I think the version of the game that they win is too dependent on the Chiefs not playing well. It's too dependent on the Chiefs turning the ball over, getting sloppy on offense, committing drive-extending penalties on defense, screwing up in special teams. And look, we know the Chiefs are capable of doing that. We know that the Chiefs have had their flaws this year in special teams, on defense, with the turnovers. If they do those things, that gives Jacksonville a realistic path to pulling what would be a stunning upset, the biggest possible upset of this weekend, as it is the largest point spread of any of the 4 divisional round games. I just don't see that happening. And the reason I don't see it happening is because it kind of did happen in the first meeting between these two teams, and it didn't matter. The Chiefs were -3 in turnovers, including a special teams turnover. Harrison Butker missed an extra point. It didn't matter. Chiefs had 500 yards of offense, and they were up 27-10 before a garbage time touchdown in the fourth quarter. That's how vast I think the talent gap is. The Jaguars are a young team, and they've improved, and they've got a great head coach. And Trevor Lawrence is playing good football. But they didn't close the talent gap that significantly. And I really do believe that barring some shenanigans, barring some craziness, barring what we used to call chiefiness in the playoffs, in the BM era before Mahomes, barring any of that, I think the Chiefs are going to win. And I think they're going to control the 60 minutes of football that are played at Arrowhead Stadium on Saturday. I said it in the first hour. This reminds me of 2018, when the Chiefs played the Colts in the divisional round. That was Mahomes' first playoff game. So it's obviously a different scenario now that we know what Mahomes can do when the stakes are high. But that was the Chiefs at home, off a bye, against the AFC South champions, who had a good second half of the season and were kind of building some momentum. And everybody thought, man, this is a really experienced team, a young team, rather. The Colts were young at the time, starting to get some confidence. Maybe they can go pull off the upset. And the Chiefs put those guys in the dirt. 31-13 on that Saturday night at Arrowhead Stadium for Mahomes' first career playoff win. I think that's a more likely outcome than even the Jags keeping it close. Now, I'm hedging and saying the Jags are going to keep it close, but that's a credit to them. I want to give them some credit for being a mentally tough team and a team with a great deal of confidence and a team like I think Trevor Lawrence, I don't know that Lawrence is ever going to get to the tier of quarterback play that Mahomes is on and that Josh Allen has been on, that Joe Burrow has been on, or that Aaron Rodgers reached in his career. I don't think he's that guy. But he is absolutely going to be a guy who turns up in January quite a bit in his NFL career. I think he's going to be a comfortable second tier. You can get to the playoffs and win a playoff game or two with him kind of starting quarterback. But this is his first road playoff game, and it's at Arrowhead Stadium, and he poked the bear. He poked Chiefs fans. We'll see how that goes for him. Anyway, the other games this weekend, the Saturday night game, the Giants and the Eagles in the NFC. Giants are 7.5-point underdogs. The total in that game is 48.5. Again, this always happens. The team's on a bye. We don't get a recent performance to react to. The Giants just went on the road and beat the Vikings, who we didn't think were any good. We were never fooled by the Vikings, were we? I wasn't. Nobody on this radio program was fooled by the Vikings. But the Giants are coming off of a road playoff win. Daniel Jones played great. They ran whatever they wanted to run on offense and executed it really well. And they came up with a stop to win the game. And Dexter Lawrence was the best defensive player on the field. All of that is true. But again, there's a reason the Eagles were the 1 seed. There's a reason the Eagles had a bye. I think they're going to show why coming up on Saturday night with Jalen Hurts having had another week to rest and recover. I mean, if he's at 50% health-wise, Katie bar the door. All bets are off. But I think he'll be much closer to ramming speed than he was even in Week 18 of the regular season. And I think that means the Eagles will be at ramming speed. And I like them to beat the Giants and cover that 7.5-point number. Sunday, you have the Bengals and the Bills. And the Bengals have been sitting at 5.5-point underdogs all week. Now, Brendan's not here to defend his stance on this, but I don't think it needs defending. I think it's entirely reasonable stance that he has had that doesn't feel like a real good number. That Joe Burrow as a playoff underdog has earned a little goodwill and a little belief, and that the Bengals were in the process of outplaying the Bills when their Monday night meeting was halted and ultimately canceled. And the Bills convinced nobody, certainly, in their playoff win over the Dolphins. But the Bengals also ruled out Alex Kappa and Jonah Williams today. That's their left tackle and their right guard, and the whole right side of their offensive line is out now because La'el Collins is also injured. And even though the Bills have missed Von Miller in the pass rush, I think they've got enough juice up front to get home, to make Burrow's life difficult, to get a bunch of sacks, to force a bunch of third and longs, force some incomplete passes, to keep the Bengals from really moving the ball the way that they like. And I think the Bills are going to find a way to win at home. I think the Bills do win that game. I would probably bet the Bengals plus 5.5 if I had to take the spread, because I think they're capable, certainly. Like, Joe Burrow's won a playoff game where he got sacked 9 times. Even if I think the Bills are going to get home a bunch and get some sacks, we've seen Burrow and the Bengals overcome that before against a sloppy opponent, and the Bills have been pretty sloppy in recent weeks. But Bills at home, I got to go with Buffalo in this matchup. I think down 3 starting linemen is just going to be a little bit too much for Burrow and that offense to overcome. Total on that game, by the way, is 49.5. The late game Sunday. This is where I'm picking the upset. Cowboys are 3.5-point underdogs at the San Francisco 49ers. Total is 46.5. This is where I'm picking an upset. I think the Dallas Cowboys, there's always an upset in the divisional round, right? Always. And I know I picked Dallas to lose last week. I did. I picked him to lose. I thought Tampa Bay would beat him. I thought Dallas was so bad in week 18 that I thought those vibes would carry over into the playoffs. I thought Tom Brady would do his thing. He might not be capable of doing that thing anymore. He's very old for a football player. Dallas, on the other hand, they looked terrific. They looked in sync. They looked ferocious in the front seven. Micah Parsons was absolutely everywhere. It felt like he had 20 passes defensed, just coming off the edge and knocking down screen passes. The 49ers, by the way, they like to get the ball out pretty quick. They like to get the ball out to the perimeter. We'll see if they can do that with Micah Parsons short-circuiting that. But the reason I'm taking the Cowboys here is Jags Chiefs, I'm picking the team with the better quarterback. Giants Eagles, I'm picking the team with the better quarterback, Hurts, who's played like an MVP candidate this year. Bengals Bills, I'm picking the team with the better quarterback in Allen. And Cowboys 49ers, I'm picking the team with the better quarterback. I'm picking Dak Prescott over Brock Purdy. I know that Purdy's getting a lot of positive attention for not being as bad as we expect the last pick in the NFL draft to be. And he deserves credit for what he has done. I'll give him the tip of the cap that he's earned. But he has not played a defense that has made it hard on him for 60 minutes. And I think he's going to see a defense that's going to make it really, really hard on him for 60 minutes with their pass rush, with their defensive back play. And I think this is the game Brock Purdy turns into a pumpkin. I think Dallas goes to San Francisco, and I like them to win that game outright. That's going to be your divisional round upset. There's always one, isn't there? It feels like there is. I guess there's not always one. But that's the one I feel is the most likely. Dallas going on the road and beating San Francisco. And I don't want to say exposing Brock Purdy, but the clock is going to hit midnight on Brock Purdy and the 49ers. So those are my picks. Kansas City, Philadelphia, Cincinnati, and Dallas. What about some best bets from our friends at FanDuel? You know, last week I gave you a prop bet for every playoff game, and they went 3-3. And if you bet all of them, that means you made money because I'm looking for value in these best bets. So they were plus value bets, 2 of the 3 that hit. So you turned a profit if you bet with me on my best bets last week. Let's see if I can make you some money again this week. Here are my best bets for divisional round weekend. For the Chiefs and the Jags, Patrick Mahomes over 2.5 passing touchdowns. I think he's going to rack up at least 3. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to have a very big day through the air. The Jaguars secondary doesn't scare me. They got some headhunters, some dirty players in the safety positions, but I'm not scared of that secondary. I'm not scared of that pass rush. Mahomes had all day to throw in the first meeting. I think Mahomes has a big game and throws 2.5 touchdowns. Right now, the odds of that are plus 116. That is plus value for Mahomes to throw at least 3 passing touchdowns at FanDuel. For Giants Eagles, I've got an anytime touchdown for Daniel Jones. That means I think he's going to run for a touchdown. I think that against an Eagles front that led the NFL in sacks this year, there's going to be a lot of misdirection from Brian Daboll and a lot of willingness to use Jones's legs as a weapon. And I think you'll see some of that around the goal line. Daniel Jones for an anytime touchdown is my prop bet of choice for the Giants-Eagles contest. Right now, the FanDuel odds of that are plus 230. In Bills and Bengals, like I said, I think there are going to be a lot of sacks for the Bills in this game. And you can bet on players to either get or not get a sack. Matt Milano, 2 sacks last week in the win over Miami. Only had 1.5 in the regular season. But I think the Bills they're going to have to blitz. They know they're going to have to bring extra pressure. Matt Milano is a very good blitzer. I would bet Tremaine Edmonds to record a sack, but that's not available right now at FanDuel. But Matt Milano to record a sack is plus 245 right now. So I like that prop. And then finally, in the late game, it's a very simple one. I like Dallas on the money line. I think the Cowboys are going to beat the 49ers. Dallas money line plus 172 is my best bet for that one. Now, you know I play with FanDuel. You know I love to bet the NFL playoffs where every play is a rush. And this weekend, FanDuel is giving all customers a no-sweat same-game parlay during the divisional round. It doesn't matter if you're new to FanDuel or already have an account. You get free bets back if your NFL playoff same-game parlay doesn't hit. Same-game parlays let you combine all your favorite bets for a chance at a bigger payday. So any of those props I just gave you, you can combine with other bets from the same game. For instance, you could bet the Cowboy money line, and then you could bet that CeeDee Lamb will score a touchdown, or you can go under on Brock Purdy's passing yards, and you can build out your own same-game parlay, or you can even ride with thousands of other fans and bet popular SGPs already made for you. If you're new to FanDuel, join now with my promo code Lucero, Lucero, to see for yourself why it's America's #1 sportsbook. And if you already have FanDuel, you can start building your parlay today. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. You must be 21 and present in Kansas. Your parlay must have 3 or more legs, minimum $1 bet required. Refund issued as non-withdrawable free bets. It expires 7 days after receipt. Max bonus $5 unless otherwise specified. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. Gambling problem? Getting help's your best bet. Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit ksgamblinghelp.com. We're going to step aside for a quick break here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, play around a What Is Wrong With You and crown a weekly champion.
hell?
What the hell?
What the hell?
What the hell?
What the hell?
Time to crown a weekly What Is Wrong With You champion. And to do so, we bring in Brendan Dworzinski live from the Charger Dome at Topeka West High School, where he'll shortly be bringing us high school basketball coverage of the Topeka Invitational Tournament, a triple header tonight, starting with one consolation semifinal, Hayden and Shawnee Mission North, and then the two semifinal round games on the winner's side, Topeka West and Lawrence, and Highland Park against Wichita Southeast. Brendan, the winner presently is the woman who had the chicken wings, the Buffalo Wild Wings, and dined and dashed, and they accused her of dining and dashing, and she grabbed a fire extinguisher in the middle of the Atlanta airport and just started spraying it all over the place. Going to be a tough one to dethrone, but you have a story that's going to give it a shot.
All right, we're going to head to Neptune, New Jersey, where an alligator was found. There aren't many alligators in Neptune Township in New Jersey, but they did find one this past week, and we'll explain why. So it's a juvenile alligator, which was originally believed to have been discovered by a group of Good Samaritans in an empty parking lot. However, it turns out it was never actually a dangerous or life-threatening situation with that alligator. Well, what does that mean? Well, let's meet Savion Mendez of East Orange, New Jersey, who bought the alligator at a reptile expo in Pennsylvania and was keeping him in a 150-gallon tank in his home. Well, he was evicted from his home, so he took the alligator with him to his new place, an apartment in Ocean Township, where he and his roommates were again facing eviction. So an acquaintance of his, Angel Rosario, offered to take the reptile to his home in Neptune, New Jersey, according to the SPCA. When Rosario's parents, however, refused to let him keep the 3-foot-long gator, the collective, the group, the original roommates, as well as Mr. Rosario, staged an abandonment of the alligator. The two men were identified through anonymous tips and help from various sources, however, and Mendez is now facing regulatory charges from the New Jersey Department of Fish and Wildlife for a violation of keeping prohibited and dangerous exotic species. Rosario and his parents are also facing charges of falsifying a police report. So again, to sum it all up, this guy had an alligator. Then he got evicted. He moved somewhere new, got evicted again. Needed somewhere to stash the gator. His friend said, "Don't worry, I got you, fam." Well, he didn't got them because his parents said, "No, you can't keep that gator here." So they pretended to find an abandoned alligator in a parking lot. However, folks in the area said, "Wait a minute, we recognize those guys," turned him in, and now they are facing charges from the New Jersey Department of Wildlife.
Oh, I didn't know they had alligators in New Jersey. By the way, Brendan, do you know the difference between alligators and crocodiles?
At one point I did, but nowadays all I know is one represents the University of Florida and one doesn't.
No, it's a really simple difference, actually. One of them you see later. One of them you see in a while.
Were you hanging out with LeBron in there? What's going on? Where'd this come from?
I told that joke on Mic'd Up when we were doing crosstalk last week, and alligators came up somehow. And I told that joke, and Jake predictably loved it.
I'm sure he did.
Anyhow, what is wrong with you today? We are going to Monterrey, Mexico. We meet 32-year-old Carlos Alonso, who got a little tipsy during the early hours of January 14th and went to Christ the King Parish in downtown Monterrey to rob the church. In the darkness, he reportedly jumped over the fence in front of the church entrance, broke a glass door, and entered the church. And he tried to steal a statue of St. Michael the Archangel. And when trying to flee with it, he tripped and he fell directly onto the sword of St. Michael the Archangel and seriously injured his neck. Monterey Civil Protection personnel arrived at the scene, cut the padlock on the main gate of the fence, and saved the would-be thief's life. Rescuers took him to a clinic to be treated and get more information about the damage that may have been caused. The statue of St. Michael was unharmed. This gentleman should probably go to church during regular hours and perhaps pick up a Bible and read Matthew 26:52. Live by the sword, die by the sword.
Look, even beyond that particular passage, I feel like there's some biblical irony that I'm not enough of a theologian to really dive into, but it feels like it is just dripping at this moment. Maybe don't mess with the Archangel. That feels like, I remember this big stained glass window of St. Michael in my church growing up back in old Hinsdale, Illinois. I wouldn't have messed with that dude. The stained glass had him with a sort of fire. Sounds like this one wasn't fire, but does sound like it was just as dangerous. I'm going to go with a tie going to sword play for today. I'm going to pick this guy as our daily winner for sure.
He just about cut off his head trying to steal St. Michael the Archangel. Yeah, there's definitely a lesson to be learned there. But does our statue thief beat the fire extinguisher woman at the airport?
Man, I'm going to say no because I feel like he already got his karmic retribution for what he did. I'm going to go with the woman who still, again, wait, do you not have $25? Like, I'm sure there's an ATM at the airport. You can go get some cash and pay for your B-dubs. I go frequently. It's not that expensive.
No, it's really not. Especially if you go to Wing Tuesdays. Like, they got a nice deal on the boneless wings.
Yeah, BOGO Tuesday or Thursday.
Yeah, a little BOGO.
Nice, easy deal.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be dining and dashing, and it definitely doesn't need to be spraying random passerby with a plume of fire extinguisher smoke. So she's our winner. She is our What Is Wrong With You champion for the week. Brendan, we will talk to you shortly.
Talk to you coming up here at 4:45, quarter to the top of the hour. We've got Hayden versus Shawnee Mission North in Consolation Semi number 2 here from the Charger Dome. Talk to you then.
We will talk to Brendan then. We will take a short break for now. Come back and wrap up 580 Sports Talk after this. Welcome back, 580 Sports Talk. We are wrapping up. We got less than 4 minutes to wrap things up before we send things to our coverage of the Topeka Invitational Basketball Tournament tonight for our 580 Preps Friday Night Basketball Game of the Week. So some quick thoughts here on Big 12 basketball for the weekend. Kansas hosting TCU at noon on CBS at Allen Fieldhouse. Kansas has to take care of the basketball in this game. It's really simple as that. If TCU makes a bunch of threes in this game, tip your cap, because that's not really what they do. And they know that's not what they do. They know their best offense is to get out and run off of rebounds, run off of turnovers. So KU has to limit live ball turnovers and do a really good job of protecting the rim, holding TCU to one shot because Eddie Lampkin Jr., such a great offensive rebound. I think this is a very winnable game for KU, provided that they take care of the ball. And they'll be locked in coming off a loss. They always seem to respond well to getting beat. K-State is at home against Texas Tech. That's a 1 o'clock tip. Pre-game coverage at noon right here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. It's not an exaggeration to say this might be Texas Tech's season on the line. I don't know if 0-7 in the Big 12 is something they can bounce back from, but it's really hard to pinpoint at this point what Tech does well. They're -4 per game in the turnover department, and that feels like the kind of thing that will give Kansas State a lot of chances to get out and run and score. If the Wildcats get Marquise Noel going again, can cash in some perimeter looks and win that turnover battle, I think they're going to be just fine. This is a game that Kansas State should be able to win. I don't expect a letdown at all in any way, shape, or form. No letdown from what happened on Tuesday night at Bramlage Coliseum. The other games in the Big 12 this weekend, Iowa State is at Oklahoma State. Baylor is at Oklahoma. Texas is at West Virginia. It's hard to win on the road in this league, but I suspect all of the road teams in those matchups will be the favorites. You wonder about trap games, particularly for Baylor, who has the short turnaround and hosts KU on Big Monday, and Iowa State, who, again, they're the co-leaders with KU and K-State in the Big 12, but they host K-State on Tuesday. They got a big Tuesday night home game. Does that mean that they lapse a little bit on the road on Saturday in Stillwater? Those will be fascinating games because there's never a dull Saturday, never a dull 5-game slate in the Big 12. Let's do a final word, shall we? Final word for me today. Kansas City Chiefs fans, your team is back in the playoffs and 60 minutes of good football from a 5th straight conference championship game. Now, it's natural to be nervous as a fan of a team. I get it. I've been there before. Even as a heavy favorite, you always have that feeling of nerves because you only get one crack at this every year. And this is another realistic shot at a Super Bowl for the Chiefs. And you don't want to let those get away because you only get but so many of those. But remember this, Chiefs fans, and take solace in and enjoy this fact that tomorrow you will get to sit down, probably all in your red and your Chiefs gear. Maybe you're going to be at the game. You get to sit down and you get to watch Patrick Mahomes play quarterback in the playoffs for your favorite team. That should be a pretty good feeling. That might even take away those nerves. I think that's going to be the difference in a Chiefs win on Saturday. Enjoy the game. High School Hoops is next on 580 WIBW.